Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 3 years now.
And let's get started.
Let's get started.
This week's episode is entitled, We Feel Awkward as Newlyweds. Oh, I remember that stage. Do you remember that stage?
Nope.
Okay, I did not think so.
It was not awkward for me.
Okay, tabarakallah. Either time?
When I got married to you, I'm like, okay, there you are. Hi.
What about the first time?
We don't want to talk about the first time.
Okay. For me, definitely there was a little bit of awkwardness, but that's me being me. So let's get right to the question. So this is a brother who is actually, yes, this is a brother who's asking. He said, Assalamu alaikum. I am a 25-year-old male, just recently married, got married like 4 days ago to my now wife who is 24. It was an arranged marriage, but everyone consented and we did talk before marriage. So I'm seeing some awkwardness between us two. When we got to our house, we gave each other an awkward hug and it made me feel kind of cringe. I am trying to take things slow. I'm not the type to rush in. We talked a lot, but I felt like she didn't entertain the conversation enough. She was quiet for the most part. I was worried and I asked her if I did anything wrong. She said no and that she's only shy because she is trying to adapt to a new environment. I understood, so I agreed to take things slow and adapt to the environment. After all this, I went to work as I had a long shift that day, so we didn't talk much. I plan on creating some date nights in a restaurant or other activities so we get more time to bond. Other than that, what do you suggest to break the awkwardness?
The awkwardness is just going to break on its own. I don't know why they would try to rush it.
I think that's true. It has only been 4 days.
Yeah.
If we give the brother the benefit of the doubt and say he's experiencing more awkwardness than what he expects would be normal, or if he would just like to get past the awkward stage, a little bit faster, if there's anything that he can do on his end.
Yeah.
What would be some suggestions?
Truth be told, probably like a board game.
Right? Actually, yeah.
If they play a board game together, it'll sort of make them forget that they're being awkward. It could be something that requires a lot of interaction, like a lot of talking, you know? Definitely not Monopoly. They're going to divorce immediately after if they play Monopoly.
Yeah.
Probably something like Sorry or something like that, you know?
Sorry,
maybe
not
the game
sorry?
of life.
Okay.
Could be a romantic version. It could be like, oh, that's us. Look at you. We have 19 children.
That's a horrifying game. But board games I agree with, right? So basically anything that sort of takes you out of your head, and focuses you into the moment, right? So that usually what I recommend to couples, because I coach newlyweds as well, is playful. Being anything that requires playing, whether it is board games or even some card games like Uno works well for you and I. Sometimes in-person activities, if they want to go out and do something like throwing axes is a big thing. Is that phase gone? But that was a big thing recently.
Axe throwing?
Yeah. Where you go to a place and then you throw axes.
For a date?
Well, yeah, a date with your spouse.
What exactly are you trying to accomplish?
It's an interesting place, you know.
It's
of
like
course.
A warning to the date is like, now that you guys are married, you start throwing axes and be like, yeah, so now you know what I can do.
Yeah.
So
practice.
You better make me dinner every morning.
Message received, right?
Which is very weird, because why is he asking for dinner every morning?
That's where I got stuck on as well.
That's the thing, right? What you got to do, this is for the men, as a new husband.
Yes.
What you got to do is you got to make ridiculous requests of your wife.
Okay.
Just to see if she's willing.
Yeah.
To go through with those requests.
Yeah.
Right. And then if she does that, you hold it over her head for the rest of your life. Like, I can't believe when we first got married, you were such a honeymoon phase that you would do this and this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
you know?
All right.
And then when she inevitably starts trying to attack you, right? You're like, you're not the same. You changed.
Is that what you tell her? Okay. I will look out for that. But in general, right? So anything that takes you out of your head and requires you to be playful. Board games and card games, these can work, but things that are physical tend to work better, right? So if you can go somewhere and, I don't know, play basketball, play a sport, or sometimes they have arcades. And of course, assuming that none of these places serve alcohol and are Muslim friendly. Yeah. But like an arcade play, something where you're doing something physical together, where you're out of your head and more present in the moment. Yeah. Those can work. Going on trips can work very well. Putting furniture together works really well. Yeah. Especially when you're newlywed and you don't have much and you have to assemble everything.
Typically, newlyweds are very freshly moved into a house. Yeah. And so there will be some furniture assembly. Yeah. That's something you guys can do together.
Yes. And it will really set the tone for how your communication is going to go, because that is a very testing experience.
The woman might think that they might feel that it's boring. They can pretend it's surgery.
Surgery?
Yeah, the guy's like, screwdriver.
Okay.
Spatula.
That's not going to work for me. But yeah, so something like that, something physical, being playful, going on trips, and accomplishing projects, simple projects with a beginning and end date together. These are some ways which will bring you into the present moment and ideally help you to forget to be awkward. Yeah. Right. But in general, with respect to newlyweds, the best advice that I can give, regardless of context, whether it's an arranged marriage, whether it's somebody you've chosen yourself, regardless of what the context is, it's very important to not come in with expectations, too many expectations of how it's going to go. And that's with respect to every aspect of being a newlywed. Yeah. Right? Your day-to-day life, just all of the experiences. So it's important not to have any expectations when you become married, regardless of context, because when the two of you are alone in a home and it's just, now you are sharing a life. And for many Muslims, that you're going from lowering your gaze and segregation and not really speaking to the other gender to now the other side of the one from 0 to 100.
Yeah. Specifically, now you're raising your gaze.
You're specifically raising your gaze. I've never considered that, but that's exactly what that is. So you now have to look up. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's because now that you're married to her, you can examine her hair roots.
Is that where you start?
Just see if she's healthy or not.
Priorities.
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, so that you're here now. If neither of you have brought in too many expectations, it gives a lot more room for you to be yourselves. Yeah. Right? Because what expectations do is they constrict what the experiences can be like. So try not to have any expectations, outside of the norm, that the both of you will be physically and emotionally safe. Like outside of what's normal and standard, try not to have expectations. Yeah. And just take it one day at a time.
Don't forget, you guys both said yes.
Yes.
You chose each other.
Ideally, inshallah.
Well, yeah, even if it was an arranged marriage, where they didn't choose each other, they still would have both said yes.
Yeah, they consented. That's what they both said here. But yes, so you both chose each other. You're both here. You're going to look back at this time, inshallah, with fondness and at some point in the future. It's sort of similar to when you start a new job, especially when it's that career-related job, that very first job where you're working in the mail department. Yeah. And your dream is to move up the corporate ladder, for example. Yeah. And just how clumsy that you were and how many times you dropped somebody's coffee and how nervous you were. And then after a year or two, you're a full veteran. Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. And
you dropped coffee on your first day?
I did not.
Is that what you're saying?
I dropped tea.
Is that a confession?
No, alhamdulillah, to this day, I have not dropped tea. you know, after all these years. And it's something I'm proud of. It's something I'm weirdly proud of.
Are people actually nervous at work to the point where they would drop coffee or tea?
Oh, yes. All kinds of things. For me, whenever I would be working any kind of job, especially when I was younger, every single thing that could go wrong would inevitably go wrong within the first month.
Yeah.
Like I would drop a lot of things, you know, the cash register would self-implode. I would accidentally give away money. All kinds of, everything that could go wrong would go wrong. And if my boss stuck it out with me, then it would be okay. But similarly, with respect to your career, just like you don't want to have too many expectations of what your performance is going to be like or what the job is going to be like. Try not to do that for your new marriage.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for the newlywed or about to be newlywed young men?
One quick way to get over the awkwardness, replace it with anger.
Oh.
And of course, if someone's angry, they're not going to be awkward around you. They're going to be very straightforward with you. Just trap her under the covers and hotbox.
Okay, I should have laughed too hard because that was very specific. That was a very specific technique.
It
if
will
we can
work.
Follow that. Yeah. So
it advances your marriage like 6 months.
Okay.
Instantly.
Okay. So if we talk about what the general progression is, right, based on our experience and based on what I've seen from young couples, right? This gentleman has been married for 4 days.
Okay.
If he was my client and I was still coaching young men, I would tell him and his new wife, take it easy. It's going to take a little bit more time.
Yeah.
And people like timelines. So I usually tell them, give it at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? Give it at least 6 months where you're not really instilling any kind of expectations.
3 months, I would say.
Yeah.
Even in my case.
Even in a new job, they give you a 3-month probationary period, right?
3 months is the honeymoon period, typically.
Is that all it was for you?
3 months is typically the duration of the honeymoon period. It has nothing to do with our specifics in our marriage. Don't read into this.
I only read into things. But, okay, we'll say 3 months. But usually I tell them 3 to 6 months because if you say 3 months, on the 3rd month, they're going to be knocking at your door and say, hey, it's been 3 months, right? So give them, when people tend to think that they have a longer amount of time than it takes, then they tend to be calmer. So it's just like when Amazon is trying to deliver something.
Yeah.
If they tell you wait at least a month, but it ends up coming after 2 weeks, that 2-week wait is going to be a lot easier. Than if they said wait 2 weeks. Right. So I tell the clients usually wait 6 months. And during that 6 months, just focus on your only goal is just to get to know each other. That's it. If there is an expectation to have, it's from yourself that you're going to make efforts to try to get to know this person on multiple different levels. Try to understand how they think, what makes them happy. The goal is to try to tune into them. Who is it? It is Gottman. Who is one of the experts on marriage. He talks a lot about being tuned in to your partner and that being a determinant for whether or not a marriage succeeds, right? For example, like alhamdulillah, you and I have been married for 3 years. So we're at the point now that if I walk into a room and I'm not the happiest, you just immediately know. And you have some idea of what it is and of how to, because we've communicated through that of what are the next steps. Likewise, if I notice that you're not feeling in the best mood, then I'm tuned into you. Right. Or another way to be tuned into somebody is just have an idea, make efforts to understand what their day is like, what life looks like through their eyes. That's one way to describe it. All right. So over the next 3 months to 6 months, your only goal is to try to tune into your new spouse. That's it.
You need to make sure you have a driver license.
Okay. Is that a jab at me because I don't drive?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But if you don't have a driver license on what exactly is going on to make your wife or your husband sad or angry, then it's going to be difficult for you. So you got to make sure you have, even if it's not like a driver license, probably like a passport. or like anything with your ID on it.
What? Okay. All right. I'll ask. What is a driver license?
Well, another word for it, I guess, would be like an ID.
An idea. That was terrible. It was really good. So it's like that. Generally, don't have expectations. Your only goal is to try to tune into each other, inshallah. Take it one day at a time, and most things will work themselves out. With respect to developing the right communication habits, because if there is something else that you would try to intentionally do, is to develop the right communication habits, the conflict resolution routines, and even the support routines that we talk about. For a detailed breakdown of that, I would recommend the second episode that we did called The First Year of Marriage, where we go through in some detail what the conflict resolution routines are, what the 5 steps are, how to develop a safe space, all of that. But other than that, take it easy, have fun. Don't worry about the label of honeymoon period. I think actually that's pretty detrimental because that leads to people having expectations. Don't worry about what you're supposed to feel and how things are supposed to go. They're just going to go how they go. Focus on your new spouse and just trying to get to know them. An easy way to do that is play as much as you can, arm wrestle. We do a lot of thumb wars, just random spontaneous thumb wars. Just make up little games as you're driving along, when you're waiting together in the line at the bank. Just little games, right? Just be playful, because
don't play games when you're waiting in line at the bank, because people are gonna take that the wrong way.
I mean, just verbal games where you're standing and you're
don't play any games at the bank. All right, just play it safe.
For example,
don't play any games at the bank.
Okay, let me redeem myself. Like games like it's a simple game, but it works. Like I spy with my little eye something, such and such. It's silly, but it's a little game, and it takes you out of your mind. And the fastest way to build that emotional, intimate bond between the two of you is always play. The more you play, the closer you be. And when you develop that habit of playing with each other in as many different ways that you can, the easier the easier it will be to navigate when the difficult things come. Because when hard things come and you now have to, solve this problem, this financial problem, this job problem, this health problem, whatever is the problem. What you'll have to fall back on when everything else fails is your bond. And what helps you develop that bond is playing.
I'm sure we all learned that in kindergarten. The more we play together, the happier we'll be.
Okay. All right. That is, I mean, they weren't wrong. They were not wrong.
They were not wrong.
So for this gentleman who asked the question of what are some things that I can do other than date nights, is find ways to play with your spouse. And if the date nights are just sitting down together at restaurants, I mean, those are good, but those are not really great for developing bonds. What ends up happening is that sometimes people just go on their phones, or it's just an opportunity for the awkwardness meter to be dialed up.
Don't go to the movies together.
Don't go to the movies?
Movies, like, don't go to the movies together as a way of bonding.
I agree.
Because people don't bond at the movies. They just sit in silence next to each other.
I agree.
And then after the movie, they're like, you know what? I like that movie. All right, where are we going now? And if you guys are awkward around each other, don't go to a restaurant together. Because that'll force you guys to be in front of each other. And now all of a sudden, you guys are going to be eating in front of each other. And you guys are not comfortable around each other to be eating directly in front of each other. So she's going to be like self-conscious. He's going to be like picking out on the food. Like he doesn't care how he looks. There's meat on the table, but I digress. Do not go to the movies together.
You can't compete with the meat. No one can compete with the meat.
The beef.
Like, there you go. Yes, 100% agree. I remember my first marriage before was an arranged marriage. Spoke very minimally, and I understand this question about the awkwardness because it's exactly how things were. And when going to restaurants made it 100 times worse. So everybody just ended up being on their phone. Right. So I would,
which is wild.
It just is. That's how it worked out. So that's why I always tell my clients, because I coach from a place of experience and having done a lot of the reading and a lot of the work, but the best teacher is always experience. So I always tell my clients, whenever I give you a piece of advice, it's because I learned it the hard way. That's not that the other way doesn't work, right? So for the brother, go to restaurants from time to time, but understand that's not what's going to build your bond. It's better to spend that time doing things where you're not having to come up with topics to talk to each other about. That it's try to do things with a built-in activity, right? An activity where you're physically doing something. Go on trips together, because I think it was the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who said, and I am summarizing, but that if you want to get to know somebody, you do 3 things, right? I don't remember the other 2, but one of them was go on trips with them. So going on a trip with this person, or just find ways to play. I keep coming back to that because that is the most effective way. Yeah. So hopefully we've answered his question. For anyone who is a newlywed or about to be newlywed and is going through this, understand that everybody goes through this. Everybody goes through this.
Except for Tim.
Who's Tim?
Tim was a beast.
Who's Tim?
He wasn't afraid of anything.
Do I know Tim?
You don't know Tim?
No.
Let's move on.
Okay. But so everybody goes through this. Understand that it's a normal part of the experience. I went through it twice, right? A lot of my clients go through this. There's nothing really that you have to do. Try not to have any expectations of yourself or your spouse, and just focus on just trying to get to know them. That's it. It's going to be awkward until it's not.
Which is give or take 1 week.
Okay. We said at least 6 months. I would say at least 6 months. Just ignore everything else I said on the podcast about the 3 months, and just say 6 months. I would say
1 week.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I know I said 3 months before. That's the honeymoon phase, though, right? In 1 week, if you guys haven't gotten comfortable with each other, the relationship is doomed.
Just done?
Just give up.
Yeah. You could probably get your money back on the lease on the apartment.
Perhaps.
Yeah, priorities.
Yeah.
But no, please don't do that. Wait at least 6 months before you start to be worried that there might really be an issue with compatibility, because again, that's one of the most common reasons why people come to see me on the brink of divorce, especially in the first couple of years, because of compatibility issues. So before you start to really worry that there might be something serious underlying that can't be fixed with time, give it 6 months. And if after 6 months things are still going on, reach out to me, right? Reach out to somebody else that you trust, or reach out to a coach or a counselor, and somebody who can give you some sort of perspective about what would the next steps be. But regardless, newlyweds, this is a time that you'll look back on, inshallah, and when you're old and gray, and you'll understand how far the two of you have come one day, inshallah. Yeah.
Or it could also be like when you're old and not gray in some people's cases.
What are those words?
No,
is that
let's
a
just
sigh?
move on. Yeah.
No, I'm curious. What is that?
Well, okay. Like, I'm gonna be gray.
Oh.
When I get old. I'm already starting to gray.
Oh, we're already there.
Alhamdulillah.
I think I'm out competing you.
There are some people out there. I'm specifically talking about men, right?
Yeah.
Because it's more likely for men to gray. There are some men out there who just don't lose hair and don't go gray.
Yeah. Is there a reason? Are you looking at me like there's?
I feel like those kind of guys, they gotta watch out.
For what?
They just gotta be more conscious of the world. Because if they're too healthy in their old age, right, they might forget that the dunya is temporary.
This is true, right? This is true. That took a very dark and somber turn.
Just like marriage. Marriage is dark and somber. Guys, if you don't hotbox your wife week 1, it's gonna be you guys are gonna be too awkward. You're gonna have to wait 3 entire months.
Yeah.
Just to lose the awkwardness. I'm telling you, look, here's my official advice to this guy, sanctioned by my wife.
Okay.
Azad Hassan of the coaching.
Okay.
She agrees with me on this. You need to hotbox your wife. You need to just trap her in the covers and just fart.
Okay.
That, at the very least, she'll be willing to fight you.
Okay.
And when someone's angry, as I said before, when somebody's angry at you, they're no longer awkward.
Yeah.
Right? You can always threaten her with that, like, oh, wifey, don't make me hotbox you. Why I oughta.
Why I oughta. Oh,
why
no.
I oughta.
No. Just why I oughta hotbox you? Is that the end of that sentence?
Literally, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
All why right. I oughta.
Okay.
Hotbox you. All right, well, let's move on.
Honestly, I can't say I
don't agree with that.
Are
you about to agree with that? Don't agree with that.
All I know is that it's going to be very hard to remain awkward after that happens once or twice. Yeah. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
You're like, there's no more boundaries, no more barriers. You're just like, okay.
Let me just make it clear. I did not do any of the things that I'm talking. These are jokes.
I understand. No, you did not.
I'm just laying it out for the people. Because they might think I actually did that.
No, you did not do that.
Yeah.
But just I'm thinking about it, theoretically, that would have sped up the awkward process. I mean,
it would have, absolutely.
I mean, don't actually actively do it, but if it happens.
Just like mildly threaten to do it.
See, there's that word again.
Mildly?
No.
Okay, just like spicily threaten to do it.
Okay, I don't know if we're going to get through the rest of this. Do we have any other legitimate advice for the people, or are we good?
No, yeah, I'm tapped out.
Okay. So this has been fun. It's been a gas. If you are still listening, we apologize heavily. And Jazakallah khair, thank you so much. We appreciate your time with us. If hopefully you benefited, if you benefited from this episode or any other episode of the podcast, and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. If you are newlywed or about to become a newlywed, we would love to hear from you. So please let us know in the comments what you would advise other fellow newlyweds. What has worked for you, and what hasn't worked for you. They would probably really like to hear about that, inshallah. If you're a young woman and you are still looking for your spouse and you are tired and exhausted by the dating app experience, I have a webinar that will be free until the end of this month, where we talk about dating app strategies that actually work. So you can find a link to that on the About section of the YouTube page, if you're listening on YouTube, or in the description if you're listening on any other podcast platform. And that should be everything. That's all the house things.
Yes.
Yes?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so once again, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all the time you spend with us. Have a wonderful week, and Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.